Welcome to Punky's World. I just had a good laugh. The very first thing I did when I opened my mouth before I talked, when I first started this video, the first time I tried it, was burp. Anyway, this is our genealogy video. Today we're going to talk about maiden names and the different sort of traditions and rules in other cultures. You know, because your family may come from one of these cultures and you may be going, you know. So, and sometimes you do that anyway. Okay. Women in England, and in the English-speaking world, really, change their names. There is no law that states the name must be changed, and in other countries, such as Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Gibraltar, the Falkland Islands, India, the Philippines, and the English-speaking provinces of Canada and the United States, a woman takes her husband's name. In some communities in India, spouses and children take their father's first name or proper name. And I should mention, in most Asian cultures, like in China, the names are backwards. Okay, what do I mean by that? They're backwards to the Western world. You see, they put the surname first and the first name, the proper name, second. Now, when we do that, I'll take my own name. We would do Wilson, comma, Angelina, to show you that that's the last name. However, in Asian cultures, it's flipped. That's why Chen Lu of China, a figure skater, became known as Lu Chen. Because Chen is the family name. The family name goes first. But when she assimilated into the United States, she flipped it around so that her first name was first. And that's very common in Asian countries. In fact, books in Japan are backwards. And I think other Asian countries do that as well. They read left to right instead of right to left. So it's backwards. To us, not to them. It's forward to them. Okay, in the United States, some states do restrict whose name a child could have. Tennessee allows a child to be given a surname that does not include that of the father only upon the concurrent submissions of a sworn application to that effect signed by both parents. That kind of sucks. In 2007, Michael Boudet and Diana Bijan enlisted the American Civil Liberties Union and filed a discrimination lawsuit against the state of California. According to the ACLU, the obstacles facing a husband who wishes to adopt his wife's last name violated the Equal Protection Clause provided by the 14th Amendment. At the time of that, only the states of Georgia, Hawaii, Iowa, Massachusetts, New York, and North Dakota explicitly allowed a man to change his name through marriage with the same ease as a woman. As a result of the lawsuit, the Name Equality Act of 2007 was passed to allow either spouse to change their name using their marriage license as the means of the change. The law took effect in 2009. I find it interesting that my home state was one of the states where you could easily do it. And there are men who will do that, and I've heard of it being done, because their wife's line would die. So he will change his, he'll have, say he has brothers, so his line's not going to die. So he'll change his name to his wife's name to preserve her family line, and so that the children will have her dad's name. I like the idea, as a woman, of hyphenating my name. Like if I were to get married, I would hyphenate. Because I would still be taking my husband's name and honoring him and honoring the gift that he was giving me. Because here in Western culture, it is a gift. But I would also be honoring my father. My father's name isn't going to die out, although I'm the last of my generation for him, of his direct bloodline. But he still has nephews and great nephews that will carry on his last name. So it isn't about that. For me, it's about honoring both. In the Spanish-speaking world, I knew this. First of all, the woman will keep her name. But Spanish naming customs, a person's name consists of a given name, your first name, followed by two family names, both the father's and the mother's name. Desi Arnaz, for example. He simply went by Desi Arnaz. But his full name, it was Desiderio, but Desi for short. His full name was Desiderio Arnaz Acha, which was his mother's last name. Now, in Hispanic culture, that is what they do. Although I know a family from Guatemala who didn't do that, or at least they didn't do it publicly. It may be that way on the birth certificates. Most likely it is. Particularly the oldest kids that were born in Guatemala. But the kids didn't keep that tradition here. Just like the Irish naming patterns didn't stay put here. And that's another thing. Some countries have certain naming patterns, like the Irish, and the oldest son is named after the grandfather, and the next son is named after the dad, and the next son is named after the oldest brother, and brother. And then the daughter is the same thing with the mother. So yeah. So yeah, that's but surnames. Also, another thing that happened with surnames was in French Canada. If you had two brothers, for example. Hold on, guys, you're going to hear something here in a minute. Okay. Or two people with the same surname that lived in the same town, to differentiate them, particularly if they happen to have the same first name, because, again, they had naming patterns, and, Narcisse Boisvert's father was Narcisse, his son was Narcisse, his grandson was Narcisse, his that's just the way it worked. And so, to differentiate this Narcisse boy's bird from that Narcisse boy's bird on the other side of town, they would take on a dit or dit name, D-I-T, an additional last name. So it would become La Chapelle dit Langlois. And that dit name would be passed down as the last name. That's something that's not mentioned here, but I found it interesting. Oh, Spain, by the way, children on turning 18 now had the legal option to choose whether they would keep their father or their mother's name, because they get both. I found it Iran's situation kind of interesting. It became mandatory in 1918 to use surnames in Iran. Wow, what a mess genealogy must be before 1918. And only in this time, the heads of families had the right to choose their family members, including the wife's surname. Including the wife, the family member's surname. It is stated in the Article 4 of the Law of Civil Registration in 1925 that everybody should choose his or her own name. The wife maintains her family name that was called by. The same thing has been restated in the Article 3 of the Law of Civil Registration in 1928. In 1940, there's another Article 43 that says if the couple separate legally, maintaining husband's surname is allowed if the husband allows it. And if the husband has taken wife's family name, maintaining wife's surname is allowed if the wife allows it. In the last related article, Article 42 of the Law of Civil Registration, 1976, the same thing is said about a wife's surname, but is silent about her husband's surname change. Currently, it is very unusual that either spouse changes his or her surname after marriage in Iran. How interesting is that? In Japan, Japanese law does not recognize married couples who have different surnames as lawful husband and wife. That is so interesting, which means that 96% of married Japanese women take their husband's surname. In 2015, the Japanese Supreme Court upheld the name change law, ruling that it was not unconstitutional, noting that women could informally use their maiden names and stating that it was the parliamentarians who should decide on whether to pass new legislation on separate spousal names. How interesting. I went and did this research because as I was talking to you in the regular vlog, I told you I had an idea for a genealogy video. And that was the idea, to talk about surnames, naming patterns, and like. Because of the differences in culture. Now here in the United States, the only time a woman would keep her name is if she's a professional and is licensed under her name, or an actress, or, you know, some kind of entertainer, or a professional, a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, and something where you have a license and it's under your original name before you married. Some licensed people are hyphenated. They will have their license hyphenated. So those are important things to think about. If you're married, or if you're not married yet, but you're getting your RN, do you go through the trouble of changing your license so you can change your name? Do you just hyphenate your license? What do you do? So that's something to consider. It's something I have, worst rash. And I know what it is now. By looking at the dryness of it, it's my psoriasis. It's a disaster. And I'm hoping to hear back from the doctor soon, because I've got to do something about this. I will show you. Look at that. Is that not horrible? I'm trying to get it in the camera here. But yeah, that's what it is. It just took a while for it to really to show and develop into the actual plaques of the psoriasis. Anyway, so yeah, and I've got it all down the backs of my arms again. I need my meds. Matter of fact, what time is it? Ugh, I better call them. But thank you for joining me to learn about the fascinating world of name changes and how names work in different cultures. I hope this helps you with your genealogy. Depending on which culture your genealogy hails from. For me, mine's all about Irish naming patterns, dit names, and the traditional English change your name. So, I am going to end the vlog here. Thank you so much for joining me. I am going to see if I got a message. If I didn't, I'm going to call the doctor's office. And I guess I'll do another vlog and let you know what they said. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless you. Please click that subscribe button. And bye-bye.